Hello and welcome to whoever you're joining me to today's edition of the Daf Yomi, Daf 75 Omid A from the Chullin Daf edition. So let's dive straight in. Rabbi Shimon Lakish answers. The Bryce is referring to a case where the slaughter of the mother was dry, i.e. where no blood was emitted, and therefore even if the mother was not rendered susceptible to its impurity. Even the mother was not rendered susceptible to its impurity, and the Bryce is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who maintains that the flesh of a slaughtered animal is rendered susceptible to its impurity by virtue of the fact that it is permitted for consumption, not whether it came into contact with blood or other liquids. The Gemara asks, who is the Tana who taught this Bryce? If a Ben Bakur grew up and passed through a river, it was thereby rendered susceptible to impurity, and therefore it went from there to a cemetery, is rendered impure. Rabbi Yochanan said, it is the opinion Rabbi Yossi HaGalili. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Yossi HaGalili he. Rashi explained that Rabbi Yochanan's intention here is to emphasize that the question of whether or not a Ben Bakur becomes susceptible to impurity as food is not dependent on the dispute between Rabbi Meir and the rabbis in the Mishnah as to whether or not it requires slaughter. Had these two halachot been connected, one might have thought that according to the opinion of the rabbis that the slaughter of the mother permits a Ben Bakur, the animal is regarded as food and would become susceptible to its impurity when contact with liquid. Rabbi Yochanan teaches that this is not so, and that according to the rabbis of the Mishnah, as well as the rabbis who dispute Rabbi Yossi HaGalili's opinion, as long as the animal is alive, it cannot become ritually impure. As is taught in a Brayta that the Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says in the name of Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, the flesh of a Ben Bakur can become impure with the rich impurity of food, but it first needs to be rendered susceptible to rich impurity by coming in contact with liquid. But the rabbis say it cannot become impure with the rich impurity of food because it is alive, and an alive animal cannot become impure with the rich impurity of food. The footnote here, living animals are not susceptible to impurity of food, in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis. Nevertheless, if one slaughtered a domesticated animal or domesticated animal or bird susceptible to impurity food, even if it's still twitching, as stated in the Mishnah on 117b, and that's from the Raman Sefer Tahara Hilchot Tumas Ochlin 2:6. Even if it's permitted for consumption, the Gemara knows that Rabbi Yochanan follows his standard line of reasoning. What's that? According to Rabbi Yochanan, when the rabbis disagree with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi HaGalili, they do not disagree because they concur with Rabbi Meir's opinion in the Mishnah that since a Ben Bakur requires slaughter, it cannot be considered food and therefore cannot become impure. This is apparent from Rabbi Yochanan's equating of the opinions of Rabbi Yossi HaGalili and Beis Shammai. Evidently, Rabbi Yochanan holds that the rabbis also disagree with Beis Shammai's opinion. If their reason for disputing the opinion of Rabbi Yossi HaGalili was only that they hold in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, that when an animal still requires slaughter, it cannot be considered food, then fish, which don't require slaughter, should be considered food even before they die, and so they should already be susceptible to impurity at that point. Rather, as indicated by the rabbi's formulation, we hold that anything that is still alive, even if it does not require slaughter and could already be considered food, cannot become impure due to the fact that it is alive, said Rashi. And Rabbi Yochanan says that Rabbi Yossi HaGalili and Beis Shammai said the same thing. They both hold that even a live animal can become impure with its impurity of food. The opinion of Rabbi Yossi HaGalili is that we stated in the Brayta. The opinion of Beis Shammai, as we learned in the Mishnah in Ozkin 3:8, with regard to fish, from when are they susceptible to impurity? It's food. Fish susceptible to impurity from when they die, in accordance with the opinion of Beis Hillel. I'm going to say for the Torah Hilchot Tumas Ochlin 2:6. Beis Shammai say, from when are they caught in a trap? What's that? Beis Shammai Omim Misha Yid Sodu. The exclusion of fish from the requirement of slaughter is indicated by the verse, if flocks and herds are slaughtered for them, they will suffice for them, or if all the fish of the sea are gathered together for them, will they suffice for them? Numbers 11:22. The fact that the verse mentions slaughter with regard to flocks and herds, with regard to fish, it merely refers it merely refers to gathering and indicate that fish do not require slaughter. Nevertheless, some commentators, the Rambam and Rav Seder Gon, maintain that the act of gathering fish corresponds to the act of slaughter and is required in order to render the fish permitted for consumption. See 27b. At this point, they are considered food, since they do not require slaughter, and Beit Hillel say from when they die. Rabbi Akiva says from when they are no longer able to live. The Gemara analyzes that Mishnah. What is the difference between the opinion of Rabbi Akiva and Beit Hillel? I was wondering that. Rabbi Yochanan said the difference between them is the case of a convulsing fish. What's a convulsing fish? Dagmakarteya Ika Beinahu. Beinu Goshen Mo Hagola explained that the Gemara is referring to the difference between the opinion of Beit Hillel and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva maintained that a fish taken out of water subject to impurity, as it will ultimately die, whereas the Beit Hillel rule that it is not subject to impurity until it actually dies. Rashi has a similar understanding, but explained the difference is to a fish with a dry spot the size of a stellar coin between its fins, which cannot live, based on Shabbat 107b. Other commentaries contend that this difference is obvious, and the Gemara would not have inquired about it, Tosfot. Instead, they explain that the Gemara's question refers to the difference between the opinion of Beis Shammai and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that once the fish is inevitably died, instead with impurity. Rabbi Shammai state that once it's caught, it can become impure. The Gemara's question concerns the fact that since any fish that is caught out of water will inevitably die, the two opinions appear to be identical. The Gemara answers that the difference is with regard to the case of a fish taken out of water that is convulsing. Since it would survive if it was returned to water without delay, Rabbi Akiva could see that it is not separate impurity, whereas Beis Shammai claim that the very fact that it's been caught is sufficient, and that's from the Tos Chaim. Rabbi Akiva holds that such a fish can already become ritually impure, but until you require it to actually die. Here's the dilemma. According to Rabbi Akiva, if symptoms of a treifa developed in a fish, if a fish developed symptoms of a treifa and then came into contact with the source of its impurity while it was still convulsing, it is uncertain whether it is considered dead and susceptible to impurity, or whether it becomes susceptible to impurity only when it is entirely still like a stone. This uncertainty exists because the inquiry in the Mishnah was not resolved. On the same Torah, Hilchot Tumas Ochlin 2:6. According to Rashi, this dilemma refers to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who maintained that fish that develop the condition that will cause them to die are already considered susceptible to impurity even before they actually die. The Gemara inquires as to whether or not the opinion can be extended to apply to a fish with symptoms of a treifa. The Gemara's question is whether or not such symptoms in a fish are true indicators of the fact that they will ultimately die. This explanation assumes that according to the opinion of Beis Hillel, that even if it's taken out of water, it is not subject to impurity until it actually died. Fish with symptoms of a treifa will certainly not be susceptible to impurity, and that's for the Melech HaRoim. According to the Rambam, the dilemma concerns the opinion of Beis Hillel. Perhaps Beis Hillel will concede that once a fish has developed symptoms of a treifa, it's susceptible to impurity as its inevitable death is physically evident in its body. This is similar to the case on 117b with regard to a slaughtered domesticated animal. An undomesticated animal or bird which is considered dead with regard to the impurity of foods, even if they are still twitching. Tos Chaim She'otem Minchas HaChinuch. The Gemara elaborates. One can raise this dilemma according to the one who says that a treifa can live. What does that mean? The symptoms of treifa that render it prohibited for consumption are halacha transmitted to Moses from Sinai 43a. Tanaim and Amoraim dispute whether the prohibition of treifa depends on the fact that the animal will die within 12 months, or whether the animal can treifa even if it will live for a longer period in 57b. As perhaps that opinion is limited to an animal, as an animal has a strong life force, and it could develop such symptoms, but with regard to a fish, life force is not strong, all would agree that it will not survive. Or perhaps even according to the one who says that the treifa cannot live, it is possible that this matter, that a treifa is regarded as dead, applies only to an animal, as the requirement to slaughter it in order to permit it for consumption applies to this type of creature. According to Rabbeinu Gershom Mor Hagola, the Gemara here is linking the applicability of the requirement of slaughter with regard to specific living beings with whether or not symptoms of treifa are an indication that those creatures will die. This connection is problematic as these two issues do not seem to be related. But the more, even according to the opinion that the Treifa cannot live, it is certainly not considered as though it were already dead, neither is regard to impurity nor any other matter. Therefore, Rashi cites a different version of the Gemara that compares the significance of symptoms of Treifa in a fish to the fact that there is no prohibition against eating such a fish. Other commentators accept the standard version of the text and explain that the reference is to the halacha stated on 117b that a slaughtered animal that is still twitching considered food with regard to its impurity. Consequently, the Gemara is saying that with regard to such an animal which requires slaughter, it is regarded as food after slaughter, even before fully died. By contrast, with regard to fish, which is eaten only after they fully die, perhaps the inevitability of death is sufficient to have been regarded as food, and to melaharoim, i.e. to animals, and so invalidate a slaughter. The Torah classifies an animal as a treifa as though it is dead. With regard to fish, where the requirement to slaughter it in order to permit it does not apply to this type of creature, I would say that a fish which is similar to treifa is not considered as though it were dead. The Gemara concludes that the rabbi stated in the Mishnah that a 9-month-old fetus is considered to be part of his mother. Therefore, when the mother is slaughtered, the entire fetus is permitted, including all its fats. The Gemara asks, if an animal expelled a non-viable newborn, one is not liable for violating the prohibition against eating forbidden fats if he ate the fats of a non-viable newborn of a kosher animal. Nevertheless, he is flogged in this case for eating an animal carcass, and the fetus was not permitted by slaughter of its mother. The halacha is in accordance with the statement that in any case where its months of gestation were not completed, it is not regarded as an animal. Sefer Kedusha Hilchet Maklot Asurat 7:1 and see the Maggid Mishnah and Lechem Mishnah then Shulchan Aruch 64:2. What is stated of the fetus is fat. Rabbi Yochanan said his fat is like the fat of any other domesticated animal, and one is liable to kill if he eats it. And Rabbi Shimon Loka said his fat is like the fat of an undomesticated animal, which is not prohibited. The intention is only that these fats are not included in the prohibition that applies to fats of a domesticated animal, but these fats are certainly prohibited for consumption as, just like the rest of the fetus, they were not permitted by the slaughter of the mother. The Gemara elaborates. Rabbi Yochanan said its fat is like the fat of any other domesticated animal, as he maintains that the exit of a fetus through the airspace of the opening of the womb causes it to be regarded as an independent animal. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said its fat is like the fat of an undomesticated animal, as he maintained that the completion of the months of gestation causes a fetus to be regarded as an independent animal, and this stillborn did not reach this stage. Some say that there was another explanation of this dispute. In any case, where its months of gestation were not completed, everyone agreed that it is nothing, i.e. it is not an independent animal, and its fat is not included in the prohibition of forbidden fats. When they disagree, it is with regard to a case where one inserts its hand to the womb of the animal. If one inserts its hand to the womb of the animal, and when the fat of a live 9-month-old fetus, and ate it, he is liable for eating the forbidden fat of the domesticated animal in accordance with the second version of the statement of Rabbi Yochanan Sefer Kedusha Machlot Asurat 7:4 Shulchan Aruch 64:3. And remove the fat of a 9-month-old fetus and ate it. Rabbi Yochanan said its fat is like the fat of any other domesticated animal, as the months of gestation alone cause it to be regarded as an independent animal. Manaka said its fat is like the fat of a domesticated animal, as it is the months of gestation and its exit through the airspace of the opening of the womb that together cause it to be regarded as an independent animal. Since its fetus was not yet born, it is not yet subject to the prohibition of forbidden fats. Rabbi Yochanan raised a dilemma to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish from a bride that discusses the sacrifice of the fat surrounding the fetus inside a pregnant animal. Just with regard to the requirement to sacrifice fat and 2 kidneys, Leviticus 7:3-4, which is stated with regard to a guilt offering, the fat of a fetus is excluded from the category of fats that one is required to sacrifice because a guilt offering is always a male. So too, with regard to every other offering, even in the case of a female offering, the fat of a fetus is excluded from the category of fats that one is required to sacrifice. The fats of fetus are not sacrificed upon the altar, as stated in the Braita, Sefer Vode Hilchet Maser Karbono 119. Rabbi Yochanan explains his objection. Granted, according to my opinion, that the fat of a fetus is forbidden for consumption, This is why the verse was necessary to exclude it from being sacrificed on the altar. But according to your opinion, that it is not forbidden. Why is the verse necessary to exclude it? Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, my explanation is also derived from the verse here, which serves as a source for the fact that the fat of a fetus is not forbidden. And some say there is another version of this objection in which Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish raises an objection to Rabbi Yochanan from that writer. Just as with regard to the requirement to sacrifice the fat in the 2 kidneys that is stated with regard to a guilt offering, when the fat of a fetus is excluded from the category of fat, the ones required to sacrifice. So too, with regard to every offering, the fat of a fetus is excluded from the category of fat, the ones required to sacrifice. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish explains the objection. Granted, according to my opinion, the fat of the fetus is not prohibited like the other fat. It's due to that reason that the Mishnah one excludes it from the requirement of being sacrificed. But according to your opinion, well, the fat of the fetus is considered one of the forbidden fats that ought to be sacrificed. Rabbi Yochanan said to him, the reason that this fat is not sacrificed is just as it is with regard to an offering whose time has not yet arrived, i.e. is not yet 7 days old, which may not be sacrificed. Leviticus 22:27, despite being of a species of animal that may be sacrificed. Similarly, with regard to the fat of the fetus, despite being included among the fats that are prohibited, it may not be sacrificed. The Gemara returns to the dispute in the Mishnah with regard to the 9-month-old fetus found alive inside the slaughtered mother. Rabbi Meir holds that the fetus itself must be slaughtered in order to be permitted, and the rabbis hold that it is permitted by virtue of the slaughter of its mother. Rabbi Ami said, with regard to one who slaughtered a raven, found it inside a live month-old fetus. According to the statement of Rabbi Meir, who prohibits a 9-month-old fetus is found inside a kosher animal to slaughter itself. If it is found inside a terefa, he permits the fetus once it's slaughtered itself. But according to the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, referred to as the rabbis in the Mishnah, who permit a 9-month-old fetus found inside a kosher animal by virtue of the slaughter of its mother, if it is found inside a terefa, he prohibits it even to slaughter itself. Rabbi said, according to the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, who permits a 9-month-old fetus inside a kosher animal by virtue of the slaughter of its mother, he also permits, if it is found inside a terefa, once the fetus itself is slaughtered. A 9-month-old fetus found inside a terefa is permitted by means of its own slaughter, in accordance to the opinion of Rava. Sefer Kedush Hilchah Machlot Surat 5:15. See the Maggid Mishnah there. Your day 13:3. The reason is the medicine one considers 4 samanim to be fit for slaughter, either windpipe and gullet of the mother, and those of the fetus, with the fetus being permitted by cutting of either pair. Rav Hista said, with regard to one who slaughtered paper and found it inside a 9-month-old fetus. So that's the end of Amud A. Thank you for listening, and feel free to leave me comments and subscribe, and all the best. Bye.